Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute. I keep hearing that phrase so often it's become kind of a popular thing. Anyway, it has been a minute. I haven't put an episode out in a while, but that's okay. I've been working on some other things, and as I said, spending some time with my children. This episode is one of a kind, and we have a true gentleman joining us today, and it's a privilege to welcome him to the show and get his insights into the industry and business. That is Gregg Rosen, the president of Kimco Steel Sales. So he's a third generation operator. His grandfather started the business a long time ago, and his son Cody is in there, modernizing and innovating as us young people do. And it's just it's inspiring to see people, even in third and fourth generation, loving the industry and taking care of it and seeing that it moves forward. So I actually talked with Cody about some AI stuff that Greg mentions in this episode, and is very, very impressive. So these people are unwavering in their commitment to hard work, quality, and environmentally conscious, and that's evident. So I welcome you to the episode and thank you for being patient with me in my short little hiatus. More episodes are coming, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy this one like I did. So without any further delay, Mr. Gregg Rosen. All right, everybody, we have a special guest today that I'm very curious about. Mr. Gregg Rosen of Kimco Steel Sales. And they are a true leader really in North America, especially in Canada. They're out of Kingston, Ontario. And Gregg's grandfather started the business when he was 16 years old, I believe, as an immigrant. And there's a giant story that I'm excited to learn about. And it's a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you're welcome. It's again my pleasure. I've heard about Kimco Steel all my life, being from the area. So there's always talks of what's Kimco Steel doing and what are they up to, and we're here to learn about that. So where did it all start, Mr. Rosen?
Well, I mean, I think you started off at the beginning. My grandfather, an immigrant from Lithuania, settled in Kingston after arriving in Montreal, and started a horse and buggy with picking up pelts and rags. And as time went on, they then went into the Depression, which was a difficult time for sure for my grandfather and family. My grandfather was bankrupt, owed people a lot of money, but he made a promise to everybody that he would pay everybody back. He just needed time. And my father was young at the time, and heard his dad, and my grandfather continued to build the business and continued to pay back every single person that he owed the money to. Mm-hmm. Which was quite amazing. Then in the late 50s, my grandfather was a diabetic. Unfortunately for most immigrants, that's always been a problem. Mm-hmm. And had both legs amputated. And at that time, my father was in high school at the time. Yep. And he needed to sort of drop out of high school and go and work in the family business, being the youngest brother. And so my grandfather continued to work in the business, and my dad basically ran the business out in the yard and did what he needed to do to continue to grow the scrap metal and recycling business. Fortunately for us, my dad was a hardworking guy. He'd go to work every morning, work all day, go home in the afternoon, late afternoon, shower, put on a reasonable outfit, and go and visit clients. And one of our very first opportunities for us, which I think spearheaded Kimco into where we are today in reality, was my dad went to Alcan, and at that time, which was in Kingston, Ontario. It's now not Alcan anymore. It's they've changed names over the time, but
Yep.
got the contract to bale all their aluminum for them. And so my dad bought his very first press and first crane, and had that contract. From there, my dad continued to grow the recycling business, and then in the 70s, decided to get into the new steel distribution business as well. And so we were in the new steel distribution business on a 1 acre site in Kingston, Ontario. The city came along to us and told my dad that he needed to move because he was in a residential area and really couldn't have this kind of industry in a residential area.
Right.
So my dad bought at that time 20 acres of land outside of the city. At that time, we considered outside of the city on Counter Street. I remember spending the summer of 1971 waving in trucks as they filled in the swamp that my father bought, full of fill and so on like that. And shortly after that, my dad then built where we are today.
Right.
On 25 acres. As time went on, we've expanded that 25 acres to a grand total of 66 acres at the one site with rail sidings and so on, and continue to build it. I really remember this comment from my dad, and he said, "We have so much land, Greg, we will never, ever fill it." And I said, okay, it sounds great. And as time went on, we continue to fill and fill. We now occupy the entire site to the point now where we had to expand and buy an additional 66 acres just north of the highway, which we've just recently opened up. And we also have 15 acres at the port in Kingston as well. So the property and the business has grown so exponentially. And in a multiple phase way, both from scrap metal recycling to putting in shredders and other equipment and chopping lines and so on, to our new steel distribution business. So that's really a very quick summary of some of the good stuff that happened to Kimco along the way. There were all kinds of negative things that did happen along the way, but those all overcame, just like my grandfather did with the Depression.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the spirit it takes, right? Is that determination to, I'm assuming there was the determination to make it happen, right? Or was it more of like, this is just what we do?
No, I think that, listen, first of all, for my grandfather and my father, they did not have much. When my grandfather, of course, came to this country, he had nothing. So this was a great opportunity, North America, opportunity to, live a free life, an opportunity to bring up a family and do something. So, my grandfather did a lot of hard work and so on. My dad, he had to fight his way to school every day, fight his way home from school every day. He lived on the north side of what we call Princess Street in Kingston, which was not the nicest neighborhood in town at that time. Right. And so my dad was what I want to say, for simple sake, is a fighter, and one that had good ideas. And my dad worked very hard and built the business to really where it is, giving us the opportunity of where we are today.
Yeah.
And then, I came along after 1980s. I was at university. I was studying to be an engineer. I always wanted to be an engineer. And in my second year of school, I opened up my textbook for whatever reason, and the textbook was printed in 1957. And I closed the textbook and I left the classroom, and I drove to Counter Street, walked into my father's office and said, "Hi, Dad, I'm here." And he says, "You're here for what? Shouldn't you be in school?" I said, "No, I just decided to drop out of school because the textbook was written in 1957. I was born in 1959. I think I can learn a lot more from you than I'm going to learn ever at university." Yeah. And my goal was always to come to the company. So my dad said, okay, welcome, let's get going. And
Very
so
cool.
in doing so, I mean, I then expanded us into other markets that we were never really interested in at the time. My dad never thought it was doable. And that was a simple thing. It was called the United States.
Yeah.
And we're 30 miles from the US border. And, it never dawned on my father to ever step into that realm to do scrap metal and recycling.
Yes.
So we did that. And at the same time, I implemented new computer systems, implemented the shredder, that we have, the automobile shredder. And we continue to grow the business right across the Northeast, for sure, of Canada and in the United States.
Very good.
Fortunately for me now, my son left home when he was 13. He decided that he needed to be a hockey player and went to the US for school,
Yeah.
went to college, played some hockey, did all that kind of stuff. And then he decided that hockey was enough of that after his little career in hockey, and came back to Kimco. And he's now taken us to the next level,
Good.
where we now, employ over 250 people, and we have a very vibrant, growing business, unique one-stop shop. We're only in Kingston, Ontario. People say, why have you not opened up satellite yards? It's just not something we do. Both Cody and I are very hands-on guys. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I could definitely tell that when I walked in the place the first time, was in the office. I mean, just there was a buzz. There was like this place is happening, right? It was, almost gave me chills, really. So that was cool. But I'm curious, did you have any brothers or sisters, Greg?
yeah, I do. I'm the oldest in my family. I have a sister and a brother. A
Okay.
younger, the baby in the family is my brother. My sister Andrea. My mom was from New York City.
Okay.
She got transplanted to Kingston, Ontario in 1958. Leaving New York City was a little bit of a shock to her. But anyway, my mom was from New York City. My sister went to school at Western in fine arts and decided that she wanted to go to New York and work in the art world. And so she moved to New York, and opened up her own gallery, and stayed in New York her whole life. My brother Charles, the baby of the family, also went to Western, decided to go to law school, became a lawyer,
Right.
was Wall Street lawyer for a period of time, didn't
Right.
like being a lawyer, didn't like the hours and what it was. So went into the advertising business, built an amazing advertising company, sold that to a multinational, and now he is a agricultural farmer in Connecticut. Or sorry, in New Jersey.
What a
Sorry.
great story. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So two younger brothers and sisters, never wanted to be in the business, all left home.
Okay. So you were the one that wanted to be in the business. Well, you were the engineer thing, and then it was just,
No, I was always going to be in the business.
yeah.
Ever since I was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, I told my dad I was going to go work with my father. So
Yeah. Did you ever find it's like there's something about the metal industry? I don't know, it just gets in your blood, or it's in your blood. Like I've got blacksmiths in my history, right? Like there's
but
something about it. I don't know what it is. None of us
I
can
tell you,
explain it,
I
but
tell you what it is. I mean, for us, what it is, it's the opportunity and the excitement of the deal. In the scrap metal business, it's a wheeling dealing business.
yeah.
It's an opportunity to, you know, some people like to go to Vegas and gamble. They love gambling. In my business, we gamble every day. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. It's a card game every single day. You know what you're buying, what you're paying, when do I sell it, when do I not sell it? All those opportunities. So I think that there's an excitement to being in the scrap metal recycling business.
Yeah.
We've been recycling, long before recycling was the sexy thing to do, in the world. Now today it's all about, carbon taxes and recycling and saving the world and all that. Well, don't get me wrong. The people that started the scrap metal industry in North America back in the 1930s, we were long ahead of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? At that time, we were considered a dirty, old, terrible business.
Yeah.
And today, we're leaders in helping save the world, and
Well, exactly.
and also take and reuse materials, and so on. So it is an exciting business. It's changing all the time, and there's some awesome people in the industry. some amazing people. Even though they're my competitors, I look up to many of the senior people in the industry that have done an amazing job to help this industry and also to help, arrange how the world is shaping on the recycling front.
Yeah,
So we're fortunate to have that. So
absolutely we are. And I would say you're one of those that, we all love to love
thank
to.
you, man. Thank you.
And yeah, you guys definitely, and what we call scrap, and now we like to call metal recycling, we're way ahead on the green curve, right? Now it's just a buzzword, but it's metal. That's the great thing about metal. It's 100% recyclable, and I've had John Sacco on, and I've had another person on that, big proponents of the recycling industry, and that's wonderful. How it's the percentages that go into cars from recycling are amazing,
Yes.
Curious. So it started with the scrap and the recycling, right? And then you got into steel sales. Like, was it kind of just a need from the clients for that? Or what was?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. If you want to talk visionary, I think my dad at the time was a little bit of a visionary because, one of our major homes that we were selling our scrap metal to was Gerdau, which is
Yeah.
in Whitby, Ontario.
Yes.
And, at the same time, Whitby, my dad would say, well, they make steel. So my dad said, well, you know what? This is an opportunity. I can be at both ends. I can sell them scrap metal.
Absolutely.
And in turn, I can buy new steel and sell new steel as an augment to our industry. You got to remember, in Kingston, Ontario, we had, maybe 2 dozen, industrial accounts. And so you had to find a way of augmenting the business. And we didn't travel, back, in the 70s, it wasn't, distance was a problem, let's just call it. Where today distance is no problem. That's disappeared. And so, we had to find a way to, grow the business exponentially because my father wasn't going to go to Toronto and pick up scrap metal. That just wasn't thought of at the time. So that's when he decided to get in the new steel distribution business. And it was common. There were many other people that were in the scrap metal business that decided to get in the new steel distribution. Some of them have decided to get out of one or the other, but there were quite a few in Ontario that were doing exactly what my dad was doing. We're probably one of the few that have still stuck with the two sides and still do both. Which I think has helped our company personally, because there's times where scrap metal is superior over new steel distribution, and there's times that new steel distribution is superior over scrap metal. So we're constantly busy. We're constantly dealing with two different markets, and it's helped us in both ways. Like I said, when we sell our scrap metal to certain mills, we want to in turn buy back some of their product, and we try to use that to our advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's happening with pricing right now on the scrap side? Like, what is there? Are you holding on to a bunch of scrap? Are you selling it? What's going on there?
I won't call him a mentor, but I have a person that I look up to a lot in the scrap metal industry. And his constant line to me is, I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be out of business. And I love this guy. I really do. I sincerely do love this guy. But that's what he tells me all the time, because our attitude here is we will buy, put down on the ground, and wait. And so, 12, 13 months ago, that was a real winning opportunity because the market went through the roof and I had a pile of scrap. Today, the markets, are what they are. They're depressed. They're down. Do I think that they're going to return? I do. But at the moment, I've been selling little, but stockpiling more than little, than selling. So I'm in the position of I'm holding. I'm buying and holding. Again, some of my people that I look up to think I shouldn't be doing business that way. You should buy and sell every single day. I don't find that. This is my gamble, I guess. For me, and my gamble is I'd rather put it down, leave it there. I'll wait. And when the market strikes, I'll move the material. It's a little bit of a system that not too many people believe in, but it's worked for Kimco.
Well, obviously it has.
Well, everybody's different, but it's worked for Kimco. So that's it. So the markets are at the moment, they're hopefully near the bottom. I think we're close. to the bottom, but different things can happen that will maybe change that. But I would say we've got 3 or 4 more months before we start to see any major increases in the price of scrap. I mean, the good news is for where we're located in Ontario, I mean, Gerdau just put in a massive new furnace. They're going to need a lot more scrap. Dofasco put in, new furnaces. Stelco put in new furnaces. Algoma's put in new furnaces. Those are all great things for anybody that's in the scrap metal business in Ontario and other places. The demand for scrap is going to, double in the next couple of years in what's going to go on here in Ontario. So that's great. That's a good thing. So that comes back to me. Maybe I'll just hold it and wait, and we'll see what happens. Maybe that'll be another windfall. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. That's right. That's for sure. But none of us have a crystal ball. Unfortunately.
That comes back to the card game.
Exactly. So I'm curious about the logistics of it, because I mean, I talked to a lot of people, and I was talking to a gentleman in Louisiana, Ken Stelly, actually, and I don't know if you know the guy, but he was talking about from all the way down to Louisiana, he was bringing scrap up to Canada, and I'm just wondering, is that coming to Kimco? Where do you think that's going? Or is that going to the Dofascos? Or
yeah, I mean, I think that's what's happening is there in Ontario for the last couple of years, there's been a huge demand for scrap metal, and we've been paying probably more in Ontario than other parts of North America. Yeah. And so depending on the markets, people are, I mean, like I was saying earlier, in the 70s, to tell you were going to ship scrap 500 miles away, that was sort of that wasn't a thought. Today, I mean, we all ship scrap all over North America, depending where the market is and what products we have. So we ship scrap into the Carolinas, we ship scrap into Texas, we ship scrap down to Big River, so all of those places, Chicago, we ship scrap out Western Canada. Meanwhile, we've got stuff right 160 miles away from us. There's Gerdau, but still we go where we're going to get the most money. And so, I mean, logistically today, with the advent of rail, the advent of these supercars that now are being built for scrap metal, you can ship a lot of scrap in a hurry by rail. And that's what's happening. Or barge. I mean, we barge material to different areas as well in North America. Or we load a ship and send it to Turkey.
There you go. So the ships come into Kingston, and
well, we have a port close by. Now, being in the seaway, we're limited in what we can load the ships with, because they can only carry so much going out before they bottom out on the bottom because of the depth of the seaway. But they finish off loads out of, either Halifax or Montreal or whatever to finish off the cargoes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Huh. Cool. So you're taking that, you're making it into a compact cube, right? And then that's going to the best place.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Either prepare it, we shred it, or we shear it, or cut it to size with torches, and then depending on the markets, we move it to different mills. I mean, so that's logistics today. There's always an issue with logistics, but it's not a difficult thing to ship scrap hundreds of miles or thousands of miles from the source. Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's very interesting. Thank you for that. So what kind of innovations were happening along the way? You said your dad was kind of an innovative visionary. So I'm curious about when did because you see your bins everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Was that, how did that idea come about? Did you guys look at a different industry? And I mean, how is it?
I don't think so. I think that, back then in the 70s and 80s, I think that lugger containers, were a thing that started probably out of Hamilton and Montreal. Right. I'm sure that the American Iron and Metals, they've got a long history. I'm sure that they had all of that kind of stuff long before my father did. Out of the Hamilton area, some of these companies are no longer, but the Waxmans and the Uniteds of the world and all that kind of stuff, they were massive scrap dealers, at the time. And so I think that they started to containerize business for the industrial accounts. I mean, we needed to find a way to, pick up material from the industrial accounts and provide the industrial accounts the opportunity to keep their place clean and neat. Because that's what they thought of their scrap as garbage to them, but to us, it had value.
Of course.
So I think that, that kind of stuff we didn't, unfortunately, I can't take the credit for that. I'm sure that this kind of stuff was around, and my dad just saw the opportunity being that it wasn't in Kingston, Ontario. And
Right.
so he brought it to this area first and then grew this area. And then as time went on, of course, we had lots of competition and lots of good people in Ottawa and Smith Falls and other areas that had scrap yards at the same time. And so we all just sort of continued to grow that. Where I was talking about, innovation and doing things was, buying a certain piece of equipment at a time to help the company grow. So in the case of with my dad, he brought a baler to do the stuff from Alcan. So there was no baler here. It was all done by hand. Everything was picked by hand. Everything was nothing. So that's what we did. So we were able to make the bales and sell the aluminum. As time went on for myself, it was the same thing. You brought in computer systems. My dad never had a computer, believe it or not. In when I came to work here in the 1980s, it was still done manually on cards and calculators and little things like that. We didn't have a computer for inventory and invoicing and then receivables and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, those aren't crazy innovations that created anything. We just helped grow the business and expand the business.
Yes.
Like I said, Cody's here now, and believe it or not, he is working on a program which I think could not take Kimco anywhere, but Cody may be able to get out of the scrap metal business and just decide to patent what he's working on. And he's working on an AI system.
Wow, awesome.
Basically learns what Gregg Rosen does every day, so that when I die or I'm not here, he's going to be able to ask the computer, what would my dad do during this situation? And it's going to sit with me for as long as I live now to learn all the things I do.
Wow.
And doing that in strategic areas with some of our other people, our key people in production, our key foremen. What do you do? Key maintenance people. What do you do? What decisions do you make? Because as he sees it, it's going to be difficult to find these people that would be able to give him the answers. And so he's going to be able to sit there.
That's brilliant.
Ask the computer, what would my dad do? What would John do during this time? What would Neil do? How would he solve this problem? Now, listen, we all know that it's not going to be the perfect answer, but it's going to give him a good percentage of what happens.
For sure.
And, there's good opportunity. I mean, that's to me is innovation. Now, AI is around. We all know that. I mean, Facebook and Twitter, they all use it. They're not tracking us. But I don't think anybody's actually done that to actually take someone like me and learn about my decisions that I make when I'm buying, selling. Why do I do this kind of stuff?
Well,
So
I think
pretty cool thing.
That is very cool. And I'll say that there is your generation are retiring, right? There aren't enough people to fill those roles. So that could be used in thousands of businesses.
Yeah. I think it really is cool. I mean, and he's got some brilliant young people working with him. And he's got a whole team that's working on this, and it's been 9 months, and they're coming up with their first prototype of a computer that's going to sort of watch what I do or whatever. But
that's okay. Like you said, everybody else is watching. So.
Exactly. So anyway, so it is pretty exciting. So, I mean, I think the idea is just, businesses today, like I mentioned a company called United, and I mentioned Waxman's. Well, where are they now? They're not around anymore for a couple of reasons. Number one, if they didn't have somebody or someone to take over the business, and the business, as time goes on and they get older, don't innovate, don't make the changes that you need to make to continue on this, what I call, we're on a treadmill, and the treadmill's moving every day. So you're either on it or you're off it. And if you decide to get off, it's hard to get back on. But if you don't continue to move with the times and make adjustments and changes, then you will go by the wayside. So you have to make these adjustments. So I never want to be the first, but I never want to be the last.
Yeah.
I've always told Cody, I never want to be first, buddy, but I definitely don't want to be last. He says, well, we're going to be first in the AI. I said, okay, that's fine.
Well, I think that's awesome. And I agree with you, because if we look at the S&P 500 today compared to 50 years ago or 100 years ago, it's totally different, right?
Totally different. Yeah.
And what's funny about that is that some of those companies were innovative, but they get too big and become a bureaucracy, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's interesting. I love to hear that there's innovation happening. That's really cool. I'm happy for you guys. So I gotta ask, where did the name Kimco come from?
So my father's original company was called Kingston Iron and Metal Company.
There you go.
So my mother said to my dad, that's way too long. You need to change that. So they came up with Kimco, which stands for Kingston Iron and Metal Company.
There you go. There you go. Cool.
Yeah.
So what kind of values are you guys? I mean, obviously hard work. You know, I mean, what's going on in the community? I mean, are you involved in the community? I know your dad was. I mean, how's all that going?
You know, we are very much involved in our community in many ways.
Yes.
And sometimes, the important things is our community. I mean, our roots are Kingston. And yes, thank you. My father and mother were huge, donors and supporters of this community, and put a lot into our community that we have here in Kingston, Ontario. But not only that, we've expanded beyond that into other areas and to other very important functions in Canada and in the United States, and also in Israel, of course.
Yes.
And I think that Kimco is an important part to our community. I mean, I would probably think that I hear from different people all the time that somebody did something at Kimco that affected someone else's life. And it is important that people recognize that we are here to support the community, and we do support the community. And we've done lots of things. We've sponsor a lot of youth hockey, youth baseball, youth sports. We look after some programs in the area, for the homeless. We donate. And last year we donated 350 winter coats and gloves and hats to the homeless.
Awesome.
Things like that. Along with, we participate in the arts, we participate in all the functions that go on in our community. So yeah, the community is a big part of our lives, and at the same time, my employees are a big part of the community. So if my employees, I need them to feel proud, about working for Kimco. So when they go somewhere, to wherever it is, and they see Kimco, or they see something that has to do, with where they work, it helps a lot. And a prime example, of that is, I had a new employee come here, and he came back to see me one day, and he said that him and his wife went out to what's called the Grand Theater. And when he walked into the Grand Theater, he noticed that the room he was going into was called the Regina Rosen Auditorium. And he said to me, you can't tell me how proud my wife and I were to see that, knowing that I work at that company that sponsored, that put together this auditorium, and what a great event it was for him and his wife. So here's an example. We do that. It's all over the place. So I'm sure there's other people that have those same thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Well, I love that. That's awesome, man. That,
Yeah.
what a nice feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I will say, when I came in to talk to the reception, and I said, well, I think Kimco's a big deal. She said, well, we think so too.
Very nice.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it is good. So it's a good segue into employment and employees, and where do you think all that's going? Because we all know COVID kind of put a damper on all that, but also, like, our industry, the metal industry, is kind of an unsung hero, in my opinion. What do you think? How do we get people excited about it again? Do you have any ideas around that?
Yeah, I think that, the biggest thing that I can say that you need to do is you need to, there is an excitement to it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do is you need to bring people on and you need to have them be involved. And as soon as you get them involved in helping make ideas and make changes, that's how you create, in my mind, long-term employment. So you just don't hire someone and say, okay, here you go out there and you're going to, for example, to be on the shredder picking line. Sounds like a terrible thing, but if you take them and educate them and explain to them the importance of what they're doing and how valuable it is to the company itself,
Mm-hmm.
that our product that you ship to that steel mill is good because of what you do, then they have pride in their work. And so it's about teaching people about pride, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to do manual labor, but our industry still has a fair amount of manual labor.
Yes.
Along with technology. So, I mean, here we go. Take a young person, you tell them you're going to train them to be, a crane operator, and you send them to school and you send them to different places to educate them. They're, both Carrie and Isri that we're members of have amazing programs that, we send our employees to learn and train. When you send someone to do that, that gives them the excitement. It's not about just going to work every day, Monday to Friday, on John Counter Boulevard. Hey, they sent me to, Texas to go on this, and they meet people and they do stuff. So I think the way you have to involve, especially the younger generation, because this is what they want, is you have to give them what they want. They need a different type of lifestyle than the lifestyle of just working, call it 6 days a week. The lifestyle is, what else can you do for me? What can you do for my family? What can you do for me? And how do you educate me? Offer courses, send them to school, give them the opportunity to, to do different things. Be flexible, in some of your hours of operations for them. Different people have different mandates. Some people are morning people. Today you and I are talking at an ungodly time for most people, but yet there is a group that likes to get up early in the morning and do things, but later on in the day would rather maybe be home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to do whatever it is that they need to do. So I think the key today with employment is give people the opportunity to grow, give them the opportunity to learn, make them a part of your business, and make sure that they are aware that what they're doing is vitally important to the well-being of the organization. And you need to be a little bit flexible with them. You have to allow them to live their life. And if you give them that opportunity, I think then you have great opportunity of long-term employment. Hey, listen, I don't know if people still do these things, but we have summer events all the time. We have golf tournaments, we have barbecues, we have fishing derbies. We have at Christmas time, we have kids' Christmas parties, adult Christmas parties. We have chili days. We do all these things. We invite the families and everybody to come, and be part of it. So it's not just come and work. Try to make it a little bit of a family. I mean, we are a family business still. I tell Cody, we are. We're still a family business. We're not
you are
not just a big, company. We're a family business that works hard. Cody and I both work hard. So if we work hard, I'm assuming people should say, well, okay, they work hard. I guess why shouldn't we be part of it? So that's it. You got to just be flexible, and you got to be creative. And if you do that with an open mind, I think people appreciate it.
Very good. I like that. That's good. Thank you. Okay, so what have you learned over the years? I guess specifically, like what can people learn from your mistakes? And I'm not looking for, to hear the mistakes. I just mean, like, what kind of things would you guide people on not to do or should do in business leadership?
Wow. I guess for me, here we go again. I mean, I gave you the best example I can say, and I tell people all the time, this is for me anyway, and it tends to to work. You know, I think that a lot of times people think that they have to be something to be better. And I say that everybody is good at certain things. Stay good at what you do. Don't jump into a course that you don't know anything about.
Right.
So I don't feel that if I decided that I was going to want to compete, head on with some of the super giants, that's not going to be successful. I'm not going to win that battle. So don't think you have to be the best at everything.
Mhm.
Be good at what you do, and if you stick to your road, you'll be okay. Now, listen, at the same time, you do need to try and venture into some other areas, because if you don't learn, and you don't have opportunity. But I would say you should need to stay in your comfort zone a little bit. Getting outside your comfort zone can be hurtful. If you're not used to, trading copper, then you shouldn't all of a sudden decide to be a copper trader. And I see that too many times. Everyone gets this call. It's like the stock market.
Right.
These guys calling you, or people calling you and saying, "Oh, you should buy this stock. It's a great stock." Well, is it really a great stock? I mean, it's a salesman. Some salesman's trying to convince you, and you buy it and you lose money. And then
Right.
you say to yourself, well, why did I do that? Why did I get into the stock market? I'm in the scrap metal business. I'm trading every single day of my life in what I do. So
Yeah.
why did I do that? And why did I listen to somebody? Because someone was a salesman and sold me. So
Yeah.
I would say for business, just look straight ahead. You don't need to look on the other sides. I
Okay.
guess it's just follow your path.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, here's another analogy.
Okay.
When I was 12 years old, my father bought me a boat. I love boats. And I would sail every day. It's a power boat, but I would leave from Kingston, Ontario every Saturday morning, and we would go down to the Thousand Islands. And I would set sail in the morning. My mom and dad would set me off at 8 o'clock in the morning. And my dad would say to me, "Now remember, Greg, this is your boat. You're in charge of the boat. And when you're out there and you see a big ship and you think that big ship knows where it's going and you decide to follow it, if it goes over the edge, you're going over the edge with it. So be your own leader, be your own captain, make your own course. Don't follow people. Make
Yes.
your own course. Now, make judgments. That's great, but follow your own course. So my answer to people: follow your dream, follow your own course. Don't think you have to be something that somebody else is.
Yeah.
Because that may be not right. Maybe they're failing. You don't know that.
You don't know that
You don't know that.
because sometimes it looks on the outside like it's good, but sometimes
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So you look at some big giant and you think, "Oh my God, they must be unbelievable. Look at all those cranes they have and all that stuff. What are they doing?" And, well, maybe they're not doing so well. You
yeah.
don't really know that.
Yeah.
You don't know
Yeah.
that.
They
So
could.
stick to your path. I'm not telling you not to be adventurous, not telling you not to try new things, but make your own path.
Very good. Well, thank you for that, Greg. Speaking of boats, did you see the yacht that was in Kingston the other
Oh
day?
my gosh, yes. Unbelievable.
Viva la vie. Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been around the islands now for, I guess, a week now. And we saw it the other day in Rockport, and then I saw it in Clayton, then I saw it in Kingston. Oh, yeah.
Oh, listen, I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wow. I came back yesterday to see if it was still there because I was going to try and get a tour and just go up and say, "Hey, can I get into it?" But
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
gone. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Someone said it was down near Gananoque last night. Someone said, I guess.
oh, maybe I'll have to go there.
Some Swiss gentleman owns it, I guess.
Yeah, Swiss gentleman. He invented a pump for insulin.
Ah,
Yeah, so he
okay.
did all right, I guess.
I guess so. That's what my grandfather needed. You see, if my grandfather had insulin, he wouldn't have been a bilateral amputee.
There you go. There you go. My uncle lost a leg as well to
Oh,
yeah.
diabetes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that happens.
it does, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, Greg, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Likewise. And I'll let you know when it comes out.
Please.
And hopefully we can continue to chat.
Okay, for sure.
All right. All
Thank
right,
you.
Greg.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
man.
Thank
You have a
you.
good one.
You too. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Thank you very much.
Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.